Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. Um, this is a repeat performance because I've interviewed Mustafa Ammar a couple of times in the past, and this is my sixth year. Why? Because I just said this to Mustafa before he went on air. There really should be a movie of his life, and I'm really serious. I don't write screenplays. I wish I did. But there should be a movie of his life. And I'll just give a quick. I mean, he started, and why we have bonded so wonderfully and perfectly because we have great synchronicities, commonalities. Mustafa was a pharmacist in Egypt, and I was a pharmacist in New Jersey. And that is a powerful, because few people on earth can appreciate what we pharmacists have had to learn and then to practice and watch a whole profession changing dramatically almost every day. And that was the beginning, but Mustafa took that even further. And again, this is like our third formal interview. He's just this amazing piece of energy in the universe, and I'm so glad the universe got us together. But from being a pharmacist in Egypt to being a diplomat, and he'll tell you in Beijing for Egypt, and teaching himself Chinese. I mean, who does that? I mean, who does that? I don't know anybody who ever did that, and did that for a bunch of years, and then decided to move on and became an investment banker. I know your whole life, Mustafa, and an investment banker and raised, I don't know, $1 billion+ for Middle Eastern agriculture. Wow. And did that, and then that wasn't enough. So then it was time for him to move on, and actually he did move on because he wrote this, Time to Move On, which is amazing. It's amazing, and it's so timely. And he wrote that, and he did other things. He can tell you about it. And now we're here to talk about don't live one life. I didn't get it yet, but don't live one life. And he talks about mastering multiple careers and income streams. Why? Because our world is changing every day, and that is for real. And so he's so on top of change and AI, all this stuff. So I'm thrilled. I could write your own bio. You're such a part of my thinking process, Mustafa. So enough with my monologue. Mustafa, why don't you do a little intro, and then we're going to talk about your words and your ideas, how important it is for everyday life. Take it away.
Kevin. And it's a pleasure, my friend, to be on your show a third time. It's always a joy and a pleasure to have a conversation. And thanks for having me. Thank you. Yeah, just to reintroduce myself yet again with a few updates. I'm in my fifth career life, if I would say. I had a first life, as I said, as a pharmacist. Was motivated by passion for chemistry. Um, I moved to diplomacy. I work in Africa and Malawi. I work here in New York in the UN, and then in China. And in China, I thought, oh, I love my job. I reached the peak of my career, and I needed to move on. I needed to look for another challenge. And this is how I moved to investment banking. In investment banking, I work in a multinational investment bank. Was a wonderful experience. Growing more, learning more, and having an impact was always my goal. I was lucky to bring $1.2 billion to the Middle East in project worth $4+ billion. And I thought, okay, now it's time to move on again. As you mentioned, I had many books inside my heart, and I wanted to share a lot of experiences. I thought, if I keep all of this to inside and I never shared with people around, I think I would be so selfish. So I left both investment banking and the foreign ministry because I was on leave from the foreign ministry in the same month. In a move sounded too crazy for everybody around me, and I started my coaching business at that time in 2020. Um, Luckily, help hundreds of people, thousands in many different ways, and I thought, with AI is changing also the way we work, which is the another evolution into the whole equation. There more need to be done. So in my current life, I do play different roles. I'm part of different investment groups. I do advise different startups, especially with a focus on the future of work. I'm a big believer that AIs will change the way we work very soon, in a very fast pace. And if we don't do anything about it, uh, the future, at least for me, looks scary. There will be in the coming 4 to 5 years, 1.2 billion people need to learn new skills
Mm,
that adapt to the future of work.
mm.
So I want to support that from different angles. The investment side is important because an investor without a vision, I think it's a waste of almost everything. So a vision into the new future economy, which I call it the reskilling economy, how we can turn that loss that would worth $10 trillion into an economy, how we lay the foundation of that new economy, and then how to move on with the coaching to a higher level. Well, we're not only coaching people how to turn to a new career, well, helping people to build a portfolio career. Since AI is coming after every specializing job. So the only way to counter that balance, to counterbalance that effect, is to build multiple revenue streams. What I call being a career intelligence. Like it is not about IQ anymore. It's about career intelligence. And probably this is the only way we can outsmart AI. So my current community, Career IQ Academy, I help our community members to level up their career intelligence, build revenue streams that sounds too easy to do, too silly even to do. But again, AI now is helping us more than ever to create more millionaires and more wealthy people than before. And hopefully in the coming few years will help millions of people to reinvent themselves, to create multiple revenue streams, to be on the top of their careers, to outsmart AI, and yeah, to do a much more fulfilled and enjoyable life, if I would say.
I'm taking notes. I don't know if you see me. I'm interviewing you, but I'm actually taking notes. I'm writing down some key words. Outsmart AI. I just saw this morning that Sam Altman from Chat GPT invested a couple of $1 billion, I think, with NVIDIA for chips. Wow. It's like every day it's just so beyond. And I think, I don't know if he's capitalized now at 500 billion, something like that. And you're so right. We need, and outsmarting AI is just brilliant, Mustafa, what you said. It's just brilliant. Um, so what was the trigger or the catalyst for writing Don't Live One Life, Mastering Multiple, Time to Move On? So what was the trigger? Was there a turning point when you felt like your security was less and your freedom was in jeopardy? Um,
Yeah, it's how to say the idea itself evolve over time and it take different forms and shapes and different levels of maturity, if I could call it this way. Time to move on was a call for everybody who's stuck somewhere to unchain themselves, unlock themselves from those career myths that they believe in. And somehow, if you start busting one or two or three of them, it's kind of you are driving full speed with the with the car is not moving. So how to say release the brakes of your car. So if the brakes are on and you're just pushing, you cannot do it. So how can you release the brakes? That was the idea of time to move on. And every conversation I have within the community or even out of the community, is let's bust some of those career myths first, and then you start going more on speed, to find that dream career. Now, don't live one life came from the idea is that my own belief right now is even I've been through some evolution as well. So I believe right now that living one life, one career life is a waste of life. Like probably that wasn't the case a few years ago. But now, with seeing the potential that people can have if they can integrate knowledge across different domains and expertise, if they have 3 or 4 career experiences, or if they have multiple revenue streams. Imagine you have 4 or 5 revenue streams. Each one of them is bringing more freedom to you, your decisions, your family, So living one life is just being stuck in a lane, right? Waiting for your turn all the time, while living more than one life and building different revenue streams will help you to go out of that lane, have your own fast lane, and go full speed, you know. So it's kind of the evolution of the whole story. Now it's my conviction 100%. Everyone is living only one life. They're wasting their life, and we change over time, as we spoke about before. Um, there is always time that we are stuck where we wanna, what we are doing, and we want to do something else. The power in doing that something else is not risky anymore. The riskiest thing ever is to stay where you are, being stuck in that lane.
Wow. You're so right. It's, and I can't say it enough, and I can't think it enough that it's changing every day. And people, you've got, which is a segue to my next question. It's so important. It's so timely because hey, it's happening. And I listen. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that we haven't even seen what AI can do yet. It's all in its infancy, so it can be really scary. And but if you, well, here's the segue to my next question. You do, how do you define freedom? Because you talk about freedom in both your books. What does freedom look like in practice, in reality, when, especially when so many people equate security and stability and certainty? Uh,
Yeah,
so talk about freedom.
of course. We all were created freedom. We are born freedom, right? Sorry, free, and freedom of choices, freedom of financial freedom, freedom of expressing your views. Freedom is a very big word that allow you, to, if you really live it fully, you're able to do the things that you enjoy. Freedom of spending your time on the things that you are enjoying. Um, I understand security, stability, all of that, but you cannot get both. It's either this or that. If I choose security or stability, I will never get my freedom. And security is very risky. That I'm not actually in control at all over my life decisions. So how we can help as many people to get to that level where they want to spend the time, they spend the time on the things that they want to do, actually enjoy. They live a fulfilled life, not working in a place that they don't, you know, their values maybe are not exactly in line with the values of that organization or so. And then financial freedom. It's a whole new journey of learning and growth I have been through in the last few years. I was good in banking, or I was good at my job, but I wasn't good at managing my money. And what I call financial intelligence, which is part of the career intelligence. Probably I would score 9 in my job in previous parts of my life, but I score 0 in managing my financials. So and managing your financial doesn't require to be a genius in finance or so. It just was kept away from us to think that everyone has to have, you know, a degree or whatever. So even if my financials are not high enough, if I have a very high intelligence in financial intelligence, I would be probably have more freedom easily. So this is also something we help people to open their mind on educating themselves and deciding which assets they want to invest in. I cannot save 90% of my money or more and don't think about how to grow those financial potentials in the
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. In time to move on, you outlined seven career myths. Which myth do you find is most entrenched and hardest for people to overcome?
I think change is risky. Probably all of them, but still change for people is so scary. You know, like I would be stuck, and I would choose to be stuck in a place that I don't enjoy, in a job that I don't enjoy. You know, being just afraid of change. Um, and if you remember, we talk about the comfort zone and the journey going out of the comfort zone, and then there is a doubt area and a stage where like, oh, what should I do? But slowly, when you go through that zone and start learning, then the learning zone comes in. And when you are in the learning zone, you are ready to explore different, you know, other potential that you can grow, and then the growth zone come in. So it's still tough when I have this conversation of, you know, for years already on change is risky. However, when you explore that there are very, um, how to say, very simple ways to explore those change. Very simple. Why you keep what you're keeping right now in your life? If you're exploring a few things, and even I help people to fail cheaply. You know, if I'm creating a product or an asset that I want to test and sell, how I can fail so cheaply. Like
Yeah.
I didn't waste a lot of time on. I didn't waste a year to write a book that, you know, doesn't sell, and I didn't spend you know, a fortune on, you know, a product like this, and then I end up failing. So I help people to explore that by just exploring, failing so cheaply and so easily, explore, getting the feedback through the process, and then finding some result. And when people find those results, oh, then it's probably okay. I can explore that learning zone and growth zone, and then when I look back at my life, I think I can leave that old life somehow.
Okay. All right, you just said something. I mean, so listening to you, it's so brilliant because it's so real. You know, fail cheaply. I mean, brilliant concept. I mean, it's just a brilliant concept. And you talked
You
about
know, the
comfort
idea is
zone.
like we hate failure, right? We hate to fail, and failure sometimes, and most of the time, is somehow connected to loss in money, right? Like if I spend a lot of money on something that it end up, or a business or so on, end up failing, that's so bad. But then now with AI, now with a lot of tools that we have that we didn't have in the past, we can easily fail, deeply fail in a day or two. And I don't call it actually failure because I learn through this. And I can tweak that very quickly in a couple of hours and create something that can sell, you know, and prove to myself that, oh, it's not failure. I'm just learning all the time.
Correct. Correct. It's all a learning thing. And you know, I'm in a different place in life. And it's funny when you turn 80, it's like you're sitting on top of a mountain and you're looking down at everything. Or if you're a military person and you're on a mountain, you can see who's coming and who's not coming. So in other words, you have great perspective on the battlefield, great perspective on life. as I am. And it's so interesting as I'm exploring all the different nuances of being 80, and I get these light bulbs that go off, Mustafa. And the light bulbs are realizations that I did this and this and this and this, and it was all part of the learning.
Journey,
It's all
exactly.
part of the learning. And the best thing is for me, I'm able to draw upon the lessons learned at each different, listen, I left pharmacy. I was in a comfort zone that I'd been in. I started working in a pharmacy when I was 12. So that was my whole life. There was no other profession. There was nothing else to do than to be a pharmacist. And so when I entertained notions of leaving pharmacy, which was
Mhm.
it was a comfort zone, was my life. And without your help, without anybody's help, I had to negotiate
Way,
this stuff, and it's all became part of, who I am and what I am and the lessons learned. Anyway, um, there's another myth about leaving your career as a sunk cost. How do you help people reframe, past efforts, which we just talked about,
yeah.
and so they feel less like lessons and more like building blocks, which is what we just spoke about.
Exactly. It's also another close myth to me because again, people they think, I spent 10 years in one profession, one industry, one specialization, or 15 or 20, and then now you want me to leave all of that and start from scratch? No, no way. Um, I thought so also. In especially in the beginning, in the first transition, my second, I was like, oh, I probably I wasted those years of pharmacy since I'm working right now as a diplomat. And also, what if I had a specialization in global affairs and economics and other fields like my peers? What would be the case then? So it took a long time for me to understand and grasp the power of when you're moving with all the skills that you have. You can easily transfer skills with you. You're moving with your experiences. You are, how to say, you're shaping your character and your persona in a way that is so unique. You know, like there's no one else in that group of diplomats was a pharmacist. So, and I didn't know how to capitalize on that. But there were many ways. I share with you also a story that when I moved to China, I had to learn Chinese Mandarin and I had zero experience with Asian languages and probably okay, my native language, Arabic and English, French, Spanish, Italian, they are a bit similar in the Latin side. And then it's my very first experience to learn an Asian language. And I didn't know at that time why, but it was so easy for me to read and write the Chinese characters. It was so effortless, very seamless, very smooth. And probably my problem was in speaking, in pronunciation. So I in a very organic way, it was so easy to read and write. Uh, and my focus shifted to learn how to pronounce. So that free a lot of time and energy and effort to focus on what I'm missing. So it took me a year to understand that my chemistry knowledge, specifically my organic chemistry knowledge, is what helped me to learn Chinese very efficient. Uh, why? They both have the same logic, exactly the same logic. When you draw a compound, you go from left to right, from up to down. Endings always mean something in chemistry, as you know. There is an effect. There is how to say there's always something within that component or that compound that tells something that we should know. And Chinese is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. So from left to right, from up to down, there is always those endings that mean something, whether a way to pronounce or a way to know the meaning. So it's part of the meaning. Um, and probably without my organic chemistry, it would be impossible for me to learn how to, speaking right. And this can apply, like I give dozens of examples to people in the community. Uh, this can apply to any experience that you have.
Okay. Okay. Um, Many listeners, many people believe securing a steady job and income and benefits is a safe route. And of course, we're learning it ain't. How do you counsel people who are torn between being safe and pursuing a risk for freedom? How do you tell people?
That could be the case, I think, maybe 5 years ago, maybe before the pandemic. Right now, with AI and the advancements, the fast pace of change, how AI is changing every shape of every industry, this is not the case anymore. Even if I like to be stuck there for 10 more years, probably my job will not last for me because AI can do it cheaper, even without money, faster, more efficient. And I'll be left out if I don't predict what would happen in my industry. So it's not a choice anymore. It's not like as before. Okay, I don't mind staying for 10 more years until I retire and then okay, I have a safe life, stable life. No, it's not the same anymore. Unfortunately, AI is coming very, very fast after every specialized job. Like numbers are scary. Like finance, for example, 50% of the jobs would disappear in the coming 5 to 7 years. Sales, now agentic AI. I mean, I remember having a business or starting a business 5 years ago was completely different from now. Why? Because I had to hire uh, people to help me with every function of that company, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether somebody to build a website, whether SEO. Now, agentic AI can do all of this. You know, future companies like you would see a big number of those unicorn companies, like that worth more than 1 billion, and it has only one person or a couple of executives out there, and everybody else is uh, AI, agentic AI, robots, all of that. So again, if it's still my choice, AI will not let me to keep it. So I would rather forecast the change that would happen, open my eye and open my mind toward that change, and see how I can fit that within my, big scheme of things.
Okay. I'm listening to you, and I think we might have talked about this. This is a little off topic. We might have talked about this in one of our past interviews, but people forget. Well, people don't, it's not that they forgot, people don't even know, but I grew up in the 60s, college and stuff, and there was this movie, there was this space movie that was written by Arthur Clarke, 2001.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and these guys are out in space. It's the future, 2001, because this came out in the 60s, and at one point, and I'm listening to you talk, and it made me think about this, that the computer in the spaceship, HAL, decides to take over the spaceship and take the functioning away from the astronauts. So that's the first example of AI, a negative AI going bad. And that was thought about in the 60s. So, and listening to you talk, it's scary that, finance jobs, 50% will be gone. Anyway, just a comment, I had to say that because people think AI is new, and it ain't. Concepts, they've been there for a long, long time. And boy, there's some really interesting. Hey, Mustafa, there's some really interesting books to be written, futuristic books, maybe not futuristic about what AI can do and so forth and so on. It clouds the mind. All right, moving on. In Don't Live One Life, you say freedom is the new wealth. I like that. how do you measure or evaluate and think about that kind of wealth? Um, and are there signals and how do people, respond to that this new wealth?
I think it's very well received by people when you show them, you showcase how this could happen. Uh, uh, Within my community Career IQ Academy, we were doing some interest stuff in our coffee hour. So I was showing them examples of how easy to make money using AI right now and add one or two revenue streams in a few weeks. It doesn't need years as before to build a business or create a side hustle or so. And when people see that by their eyes, they start believing, oh, just if I'm consistent enough in doing this, if instead of scrolling, my mobile phone every single evening, wasting a couple of hours, if I'm just focused with that intention, like after my normal working hours, if I go back home, I relax, stay with family. But if I have 1 or 2 hours that I would waste watching a movie or Netflix or scrolling my mobile phone, I can create a business or a revenue stream. And I showed examples of people who were able to do like 20, there's $23 million in 4 years. Like there are a lot of those examples. So once you showcase that this is easy to do, just requires some consistency, a bit of focus every single day for an hour or so, people start believing. Uh, Yeah, it's happening and it will happen in a bigger pace.
Okay. Well, what are some of the risks you've taken personally, professionally, otherwise, in pursuit of more freedom? What were some of the results, good or bad, in pursuing more freedom? Because you are a shining example of pursuing more freedom. My goodness.
Freedom for me was a bit different because it was kind of a ceiling that keeps expanding for me. So I thought, and I love travel, for example. So I thought I'm leaving pharmacy to diplomacy because I want more freedom, and diplomacy will offer me that. And I thought, oh, if I don't want to spend all my life in one pharmacy, those four walls, all my life. I will regret all my life if I just continue without any change. And I moved to diplomacy, fun life, started traveling, exploring. I was focused 100% on how to be better at my job and what I'm doing. And started traveling, and that somehow gave me more freedom. So the ceiling was a bit high. And then I moved to investment banking, and then the travel pace and sequence was much higher. So every month you travel, across the whole map, at least 2 weeks. So I love that as well because that was giving me more freedom because okay, I can travel for work while I explore the places that I'm part of. I can learn about other cultures. I negotiate across different cultures, and I have an impact at the same time. What an amazing life! But sometimes I think if you have a value and that value keep expanding and growing, which is not bad, it's very good, that you want to also fulfill more of that. So freedom beyond that became like, oh, I wanted the ultimate freedom. And freedom for me means the freedom of decision, the freedom of choice. If I don't want to work one morning, I don't have to, to call my boss or ask for something. I didn't want to work for any bosses anymore, uh, and I wanted to travel. So I wanted also the idea of just having a few days off and go somewhere. No, I wanted to extensively travel, intensively travel while working. So I could go for a sea cruise from Miami to Rome, which takes more than 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, and I'm still traveling. I'm still working, and I'm enjoying. I'm meeting new people. So how to say? that level of freedom keeps expanding. And then you need some financial support. So financial support where your finances can support that lifestyle, can support that freedom, because we all deserve that. So if each one of us is able to create 4 or 5 revenue streams, uh, that what an amazing life, right? And somehow, yeah, it keeps expanding.
Okay. Okay. This is an important question. How do people know uh, when it's time to move on? You knew it. What are the signs, signals, inner signals, external things going on that suggest it's time for a change? And I mean that could be changing every day, the signs and the signals.
Yes, yes. There are many, many of them. Burnout is one obvious sign. A lot of people are burnout. They don't know why. And when we sit together and talk and have a deep conversation, they found that the reason, oh, they're the lack of, they don't have passion anymore for what they're doing. They don't enjoy the place that, they are part of anymore, or they felt bored of just repeating the same thing every single day for 7 years or so. And this manifests itself in burnouts. If you recall, we talked a couple of times ago about the journey of you go with your car on a trip for a long drive, and if you don't have enough gas for what you're doing for the trip, you run out of gas, you'll stop somewhere in the middle, which is the manifestation of burnout. Um, there are a lot others, but I I I see people. If you are not waking up every day, jumping out of happiness to go to work, then there's something wrong.
Ah,
You know, there is something wrong. And I had this in even my different jobs. I had that time when I was like in banking. I'm waking up. I have the best job in the world. And each one of us should have that feeling. And if I don't have that feeling for 6 months or longer, then there's something wrong. What is it? I should know. Why I'm not enjoying? Because I should enjoy. I should enjoy. And it doesn't relate to how much you get paid, because talking to hundreds of people, I've seen people are the happiest when we have the lowest salary. Like when like somebody, an example, she almost had 12 different jobs. And she said the ones that I was enjoying the most were the ones I get paid less.
wow.
You know, so yeah, it shows itself in different ways.
Wow. Okay. Uh, yeah, that's so interesting. What you just said, when it's time to move on and that the happiness thing and in my little microcosmic world, it was just one morning I woke up. It was actually February 3rd, 1981. And I mean, I remember that day. And I looked at my wife and I said, I can't be a pharmacist anymore. And that's how it. See, what do you mean? That was. What do you mean? We just bought a house. Uh, we bought a house, and we just got married, and what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I just know I can't do that anymore. And so at that moment and point in time, I quit this profession that I had been part of since I was 12 years old. Not easy, and
I'm proud of you, by the way, because you did something at that time was just out of, is just against all, the rules of the game. You
yeah.
know, uh, Early 80s is like everyone is expected to work in the same job, the same place, even all the life. Don't bother, look around you, don't think about it. So good for you.
Wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because I actually sat home. I had no clue what to do because my whole life from the time I was 12 was geared to being a pharmacist. That was it. So everything I studied was pharmacy. I didn't study any English. I didn't know that there was a little thing inside me that liked. to write. I didn't know that because it was buried, it was buried in organic chemistry and stuff. And there were no tools like you have the tools now to help people and guide people, and the words and are so important. That's why I try to get this out for people to jump aboard and to partake and to read and to learn the things you're talking about because it's so timely. I'm clenching my fists to be dramatic. It's so timely and it's so important because they'll get swept away without the proper change. Changes are really hard. When I was at Luxottica, working for the richest Italian in the world, and they gave us 50 courses over my time there as a regional manager. And every year we took a course on change, which is what you're talking about. Mustafa, you've been talking about that. They realized and they were brilliant and they had this vision to talk and to help us deal with change. And who knew that we have to deal with change every 6 hours because the world is changing every 6 hours. I just made that up. Maybe it is. All right, moving on. Oh, this is just so. I mean, I just love this time and the chance to tap into you because you're, this a living example. Everything you write, you've lived, and that's the beauty of this. You've lived it and you've done it dramatically and successfully. So, um, if you could design like an education or an upbringing system or something, what would it teach? And this is important. What would it teach, children and young people about work, identity, security, these kind of things? How would you teach young people these values, the freedom and the security and change?
Yeah, I will teach them first to dream, because unfortunately we are locked into our own worlds. Our dreams are always not realistic, right? Oh, well, how dare you, think of something big like this. But as kids, we have the power that sometimes we lose over time. We have the power of dreaming and dreaming big and have that amazing imagination, uh, power. So the first thing is to help them just to allow that to grow and prosper and feed those dreams and see themselves in different worlds and universe and whatever they want to do. Because these things are happening for a reason. All those dreams that we used to have in our childhood, they were happening for a reason. Some of us pursued them, some of us didn't, but they will lead you somewhere. So I will allow them to dream, help them to dream, grow those dreams, and then go after the biggest of them, if I would go. And mostly you will see them entrepreneurs, mostly you will see them artists, mostly you will see them actors, mostly you will see them, doing big things. But what I want to hopefully help is to help them to do the biggest of those dreams, because now it's much easier than before as well, as we were speaking.
I'm sitting here listening, absorbing, and thinking, and this just came out of me. And don't live one life, mastering multiple careers and income streams, on which I'm holding up. It's so interesting because I didn't know you a few years ago, but when I retired from Luxottica, I was 65, uh, collecting Social Security, which I love, and I love that. And having written a book, I decided, and this is kind of fits into Don't Live One Life. So I decided, well, I'm 65, I'm getting Social Security. There's no gun to my head. There's no pressure. Why don't I become a journalist? I knew nothing about journalism other than, answer who, what, where, when, and why. And so I became a journalist, got a job with a couple of magazines, and then all of a sudden NJ Discover came into my life, and Kurt and Tara, and now I'm co-hosting a cable TV talk show. No preparation, no learning, no no AI, nothing. And suddenly I'm getting guests, and we were bringing in some national type guests. And then I became an advisor for the Women's Health Institute. I'm doing that, and then I got a job teaching at Rutgers University, and then the podcasting, and all of these things, the mentoring, all of this, all these different careers. I wasn't motivated for the income part because I'm getting Social Security, but I lived and performed as I do now with 4 or 5 different separate careers. And that's the beauty and the wisdom of don't live one life. And in a small way, I've done it without the gun to my head to earn. Because I'm a retired guy, but I was doing the 4 or 5 different careers, and I still am. I still am doing the different careers. There's no, I wouldn't mind making a couple bucks on this or that or that, but and writing books and stuff. But the beauty and the wisdom of what you wrote, it's like the light bulb went off in my head. I'm living it, Mustafa. You
And
know,
life is fun from that perspective, right? Like life
right.
is fun when you have all those experiences, you're connecting them, you're working on different projects, and you are building things up. You're not in, again, one tiny specialization, one lane, waiting for the one in front of you to move up or move ahead, and then you are moving. You can go any direction you want, and life is fun from that perspective.
It sure is. And the key to it is having some kind of a little bit of an income stream.
Yeah,
And just that little income stream, Social Security for me, allows me to then pursue all these different things to learn and to jump in and partake. Um, so I'm living in a small way. Don't live one life. I'm certainly living that. I
good
have
way.
some hats, and that's why I really appreciate you and your words of wisdom and what you've written. Last question. I mean, I got a million questions, and you'll come back. But what legacy do you hope to leave? Through your books, your coaching, your consulting, and all the stuff that you're doing with everyday life. How would you want people to remember Mustafa Ammar?
Wonderful question. Very good question. I would love to. I would love to be remembered as somebody who helped as much as he could uh, to change lives, to upgrade lives, to help people to find their purposes in life. That's probably the biggest of them, because beyond each one of those teachings or support, what's your purpose, right? Because if we are able to find our purpose in life, why we are here, then there's nothing. This is the nirvana level. There's nothing beyond that, right? So I would love to be the one who help as many people to find their big purposes and their dreams in life. And then when I'm done with my life and you go and meet God, you say, I tried my best to help as many people, and there are many people are helping many people as well, based on that. So that would
Perfect,
be amazing.
perfect. And you are truly, because you're so right on, spot on. The time. The time to move on. And actually, it's funny. You wrote this before we were hit over the head with AI, really. And so that's the brilliance in this. You're already sensing and knowing. Of course, you knew that it's coming. So you wrote time to move on, and then don't live one life. I mean, this is so brilliant, and I think for students, as we try to, I'm a Rutgers guy and try to try to get you into Rutgers but for students, it's so important. Don't live one life. Start doing a million different things. And, they major in this and they minor in this. And, I'm mentoring a new student and she's doing business and she's, supply chain management and all this. but it's your lesson. Don't live one life. To be uh, you've got to be proficient in so many different things. And again, that's the brilliance of you and what you write, because you're so spot on. And it's funny. It's like I want to take this huge hand. I have a big hand, and I want to slap the face of tens of thousands of people and say, snap out of it. You know, it was a scene from a movie, Moonstruck, with Cher and Nicolas Cage. It was a great scene, and she slaps his face and says, "Snap out of it." And it's like I want to slap a whole bunch of people out there. Snap out of it. Listen to these words, because it's right on. It's spot on, and you're there.
That's why, Calvin, the work that you're doing, thanks for all the work that you're doing, because you are spreading those right positive messages, and you're helping to have people waking up and knowing what really matters for them, and pursuing their dreams. There's nothing more fun and enjoyable than, conquering a dream and going more and more and conquering another dream, and and achieving more and more in life.
Yeah. So we've done it. Our third session, and more to come. Yes, yes, this is great. Um, uh, I'll put this all together. Of course, I'm inviting you to come back. Please do come back, because the world is changing every day, and your words of wisdom are just so enduring. So thank you so much, Mustafa.
Thanks, Calvin. Same for you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. To be continued, folks. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording.